back. It's the episode of the topical discussion on the Morning Breeze. My name is Simon Kagwanjala, and this morning we'll be taking stock on the current political developments. Of course, trying to digest what the developments mean for the country and the entire political discourse. I'm joined by Lord Mayor, Kampala Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago, alongside Honorable Abasa Gawa, an NRM, and a Member of Parliament for Chitagwenda. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Perhaps we'll begin with the events in Arua and what they really mean to the country.
Well, the events are so scary. Anyone who has seen chaos breaking out in this country, you'll have all the reasons to get worried. We seem to be going back to those turbulent days, and this confirms our worries that in this country, as long as you have a military regime, you cannot have a civic exercise going on peacefully. Because if you witnessed what happened in Wujiri, we lost a life in similar circumstances. And this time round, I think, because in Wujiri, for example, it was before the last day of the rallies, but this time you'd see the campaigns climaxing into that kind of chaotic situation, which involves the SFC, involving the police, involving all other security operatives, and a candidate
Remember,
being
if we
arrested.
go by the police account, it is supporters of Wadri who dared the president's convoy.
But of course, all that is expected in a charged environment like that. We are talking about a campaign agent for the NRM candidate. We're not talking about the president in this particular case. He went there as chairman NRM. He went there as a campaign manager. So he was at the same footing as other campaigners. There was nothing spectacular, nothing extraordinary about him being guarded like, yes, he has a different status, I can see. Abasi doesn't agree with me. Yes, he could be enjoyed. Obviously, listen, I agree, yes, it's true. He has a different status as a head of state. But when you go into an environment of that nature, volatile as it is, you force... No, you see, of course, you, even at the death of Abiriga, you saw what the violence that broke out. If the president was there, he would be caught in the frenzy, in the crossfire. He would be caught there. So, but in this particular case, you would be having forces that are skilled in crowd management, because that was foreseeable. That in the event that people turn around, how do you respond as a head of state? Do you unleash terror on the people? Do you shoot to kill? You have to have people on standby who are skilled, who have expertise in crowd management, crowd control. And those are the police officers. So in a situation where the people who are not armed, who are not throwing grenades, who are not firing bullets at the president, what do you do? We have to have mechanisms. Have we reached that state where you unleash terror? I'll give you an example. In the just concluded elections in Zimbabwe, Mnangagwa encountered a similar incident. Actually, his was even worse. They almost killed him. It was a bomb that was thrown at his rally. How did the security operatives respond? I don't want to give him credit. Worse as he is, the crocodile. But at least he did not cause mayhem. I'm telling you, if that incident happened here, that they threw a bomb at Museveni's convoy, the whole of Arua now would be dripping in blood. It would be blood all over. If it had happened that way, like it happened in Zimbabwe. So you must be, as a state, prepared to deal with the situations as they unfold. You don't kill people. So they owe an apology. They shouldn't even justify it. And this talk that actually the president's vehicles and the windscreens were smashed by rowdy people and whatnot, I think that is a hoax. Something cooked up to cover up something. Because how come all that we saw first and foremost, as news trickled in from Arua, all that we could see is blood, people killed, stained vehicles, blood stained vehicles and whatnot. The issue of stoning the president's convoy came as an afterthought. something that was cooked up to cover up this crime that was committed by the SFC.
Honorable Abbas Agaba, your thoughts on the tensions in Arua?
It's unfortunate, really, and to that extent, I agree with the Honorable Lukwago, that because of an election, someone has to die is very unfortunate. It's not right. Somebody died in Bujiri, true. Somebody has died in Arua. The situation is not yet calm as we thought. But I disagree with him to the extent that we can't be that reckless and leave everything to democracy, because a mob has many heads, but it does not have a head or the lead head of the whole mob. So this kind of chaos, that engagement, that confrontation, why would even a person attempt to hurl stones to a president's convoy? Why? So we need self-restraint, but it's not universally. It's not even distributed to everybody. As Abbas would say, why? Why would I do this? Why would I even attempt this? But there's another person who says he doesn't care. They will do it. Or there are others who will be mobilized to do it. Let's be fair and open, because we all love our country. Why would I lead a group from which you have stones being thrown at the president's convoy? Number two, whatever the cause of the shootout, there must have been confrontation. Where did it come from? It again comes back to the police. Why in heaven? Why on earth? Why would we allow to have all this happen on the same day? The rally is there, Chuperu's rally is there, whose rally is there, and you know the head of state is coming. Yes, he's campaigning for someone, but that doesn't deny him the right of being a head of state. He's the president. Whether he's a NRM
so
chairman,
other rallies should have been suspended for the president?
There should have been a good schedule that allows all this to happen. Maybe the president would have been requested to come earlier, or left to come today, but the others happen otherwise, such that there's no this chance of clash. You know, when we were in Makerere, I'm sure he still remembers, the first rally in University Hall normally was always the real rally, the fundamental one. So all of you would be there and make sure the first rally is the best. And if through the dynamics, maybe if people hadn't made a choice, then they'll look for the last rally. So I know how much importance is attached on the last rally of an election. But the police and the Electoral Commission should have been courteous enough to understand that it's not just final rallies. We have the head of state in the district, such that a new schedule is given. It's not compulsory that the head of state must come on the last rally. No. But there would have been a better arrangement to avoid a possible clash. That is one. Two, even we as citizens, those who are campaigning for other people, we all have our country. Why do we mobilize people into such acts where they can't defend themselves? Why would we mobilize people into...
I think what you're saying is critical.
Who
mobilized?
Whoever mobilized, why do you lead a group over whom you don't have authority? We are hearing accusations, this one, the groups this way, they threw stones this side. The point is, if I am in the lead of this group, I must have control over it. If you can't control the group, then you should avoid being with them, because you can't lead them. You take responsibility for the actions. That's what happened.
Don't you think this would have been a lapse in security? The president, or whoever is manning the president's convoy, must have seen that there were crowds that were emerging from different areas, and driving through them would precipitate chaos.
No, not only that. Earlier on, like the police statement is, there was a grader, I'm told, that rammed into the president's convoy. So there were some scenarios, some instances that could make somebody think, hey, hold a minute, there could be something being planned here. And of course, the president's security will not take it so easily that they will let anything happen to the president. A president is the president. Let's agree. He's the fountain of honor. He's the president of the country. And they'll make sure he's secured at any cost. That's what happens everywhere. Those are standard rules. We can't compromise them. It's democracy, but securing the president comes first before anything else.
Do you think this matter could have a bearing on the final ballot?
Oh, definitely. Politics, I was sharing with him in the room before he came in. In politics, you manage perceptions. You don't manage facts. For whatever facts that this person was shot, I don't think that's what people want here. The perception that
is NRM politics. Managing perceptions, not facts.
No, but that's how it is always, all through.
Is it a universal rule?
Yes, it's my statement, but I believe it's universal, because somebody will come and say, Kagwanjara is a Mugisu. when you're standing in Uganda. Say, hey, by the way, even his eyes look like that. Even now, you, Kagwanjara, go on the defensive, say, by the way, you people, I am this one, Mvewa, no, or you begin talking about yourself. That's politics. That's how people do it, unfortunately. You manage perceptions. So the perceptions running in people's minds now about the death of this person definitely will end up affecting the election. By the time they learn of the facts, we have already been done with the election.
In the broader sense of things, campaigns lately have been characterized by a lot of tensions, a lot of anxiety, and a lot of excitement. Does it speak to anything?
Of course, it's a reflection of the political dynamics we are dealing with right now. That the situation is fluid, it's fragile, and the kind of actors, I mean the actors we have, particularly those in security, those in other agencies are not in control. Like the Electoral Commission seem not to be in charge of the electoral processes in this country. Like when it comes to security, the police who are ordinarily charged with the duty of managing matters to do with the security seem also not to be in charge. Like here, I saw, I saw your program, the program you had here before with the police spokesperson. You could see he's not even confident of what he was saying. I'm sure he was not speaking the truth, because of course he knows he's not the one who was responsible for the chaos that broke out in Arua. I don't think I should blame it on police, and I think I would be very, very unfair. And he cannot explain, he cannot account for what exactly happened, who did what, who arrested who, and he cannot explain that. He's just waiting for some information that will be given to him at some stage. So that is the kind of situation we have. We are dealing with I'm sorry to say this, but this is a fact, with a failed system, a failed state, where the center cannot hold. And to hold the elections, to hold the civic activities in such a, hopeless environment, I think we are quoting a disaster. And that's what explains all what we are seeing right now, that we have a military regime in power organizing civic exercises. The two are incompatible. They are incompatible.
Honorable Abbas, is this an indicator that things are going from bad to worse?
You see,
failed system.
My brother Kwago speaks like a co-wife all the time about NRM. It's a military regime. It's a failed state. These are common statements from him, at least I've been following him. But I don't disagree with him openly. One, I don't think we are still under a military regime, because we have had many democratic elections. Even when you disagree with the government in power, it's not the military regime you talk about. Two, what is democracy? What's the capacity to hold elections? You see, in an election, some win, others lose. But when you lose an election, it doesn't mean that everything about it was bad. Maybe you can do better. I've lost an election before. I was hurt. But I didn't become bitter. I kept my cool. After some time, I won an election. I agree with you. The current dynamics are different, totally different. The circumstances under which the 1996 elections were held are different from the circumstances under which the 2006 elections were held, 2016 elections were held. If you take that curve of 10 years, it's different. Currently, you have more young people becoming of voting age. Some vote for the ruling party, others dissent, they say no, and others keep away from voting. I agree. And you see, I think the ruling party is also trying to change and adapt to a way of attracting more young people to vote for them. You remember the other time when the president even composed the song to try and appeal to the younger voters. So the dynamics are changing, but unfortunately, I think we are becoming more reckless. We are becoming more irresponsible.
You and
as
who?
Ugandans.
You and who?
As Ugandans.
Okay.
As Ugandans, really. Why? Because like the Honorable Kwago is saying, you can't blame this one or the other one. If 2 people or 3 or 4 are engaged in an activity, if each of them exercises restraint, then the election will flow well. But when you deploy police to man an election, they'll put up soldiers, they scare people, people are not coming to vote. So we withdraw the soldiers And then there will be questions. This government is a failed state. The center cannot hold. So what should be done? Me, I think we need to continue with the civic education, continue talking to the people. You know, an election is not a do or die. I mean, tomorrow there will be an MP for Arua municipality, really, on Wednesday after the election. So others will lose, others will win, and Arua municipality will continue, Uganda will continue. And those were the words of Abiriga. He says, for us, we are here today, we have our time. We shall go. But this country must continue moving forward. I wish these people have this in mind, such that they know you don't have to do the extreme. Why would you even make an attempt to throw stones at
Lord Mayor, when you look at the recent elections and develop your own barometer, do these elections suggest that NRM is making more inroads and the opposition is getting weaker, or they're simply exposing more of the cracks emerging in the opposition?
Well, I'll first and foremost talk about, give you a broader picture about what these elections represent. Personally, I even have my own reservations about these endless elections, which mean nothing. Because Uganda as a country, we have more of, we have a high turnover of elected leadership. But, it's a country with a high turnover of elected leadership, but it devoid of a democratic culture. You can see now the paradox. There are so many people who are elected. We have different cycles of elections. Actually, since 2016, if you were to take stock of the kind of elections we have had across the board, right from the parliamentary, local councils, up to LC1 and so on and so forth, we are all through in elections. But surprisingly and ironically, there is no democracy in the country. There is nothing tangible that Ugandans are going to benefit from these elections. So it's just because, it's just a ritual. And it actually, Mr. Museveni intends it to portray to the world that, look here, there is democracy in our country. People can freely make their choice. We have series of elections.
Did you say elections are meaningless?
Under the circumstances
that's what
right
he's
now,
implying, that
they are useless, they are meaningless. Because what is an election? An election is not an end in itself. An election shouldn't be an end in itself. It should be a means to achieving a particular societal goal. So what is it that we are achieving through these elections? I would ask you, apart from this politics of creating a facade that there is a democracy in this country.
So why is the opposition fussing so much about these elections?
Yeah, we have always explained this as in defiance in people's government, that they give us an opportunity to mobilize the people towards a particular cause, the cause for change. And also we use them for civic engagements, because otherwise the people have been subdued. When you call rallies, when you seek to engage the people in a different environment, they unleash terror, brutality. They arrest you, they clobber you, they beat up people, they torture Ugandans. So it becomes,
the Lord Mayor, actually.
let me tell you, in that kind of hostile environment, what do you do? So we believe that the best these elections offers the best they offer to us is that platform for us to engage the
So a win or a loss doesn't mean anything?
Well, there are some little benefits, I should say, without fear of any contradiction, that you can get some few individuals
Somehow
to join you, the leaders. Those who win can add value to the struggle. That is agreed. It's granted. But bottom line is, apart from reaching out to the people, using these elections as exercises, as processes to reach out to the people, what more do you benefit from them?
Honorable Basagaba, what does it mean for a country to be in this cycle of unending electioneering, year in, year out, their elections? Is it a sign of democracy or it's counterproductive?
You see, you need to understand two things. Does democracy lead to effective governance? Which effective governance means service delivery to the people? Or does if you keep changing leaders and nothing changes in terms of service delivery, are you democratic? I used to compare Libya under Gaddafi and Tanzania, because we have had more stable and regular elections in Tanzania, and Libya, at least under Gaddafi, was stayed under Gaddafi for some time. Libya was highly developed. Service people got services they needed. They were few. They had a lot of resources under Gaddafi. Of course, at some time they got disappointed, they got dissatisfied, and they got rid of their own leader. But Tanzania here has had regular elections, a stable system with the CCM, but you can't compare their pace of development with the Libyan one. What am I saying? In democracy, we aim at regular change of leaders. If the change of leaders means change of programs, then we also change the programs. But the point is, if you stand and you don't go through, it does not mean the process is not democratic. Because at the end of the day, why did you participate? You had hope that it will be democratic. And two, when election comes, this one has largely been copied in Kenya. People form alliances. This is when almost political parties break apart, and then others we regroup to try, and the aim is to take political power. But if finally you don't take the political power, it doesn't mean you give up. And I want to give my honorable friend, the Lord Mayor, confidence. From the elections of 1996 up to current, I don't think the curve for NRM has been going up. For any analyst, you can know that the curve has been coming down, actually. For NRM, from 1996, I think NRM got about 76%. Then it came down to about 70-something, then to 60. It's been coming down. That should be hope for the opposition, that at the end of the tunnel, maybe this is right. But we should do better. We should be more organized as opposition to try and take power. Or you sit down and ask yourself, why has that decline been there? And where has it been? At the top, at the president, there's been some decline. But down on the ground, there's been a raise, because the number of NRM MPs become more, the number of NRM LC5s becomes more. So why is there a decline in the support for the president? Generally, he wins. But from 75 to 60 to 65 or to 60, like that, yet his numbers are coming up. It should give you an understanding of the populists. How are they thinking? One, it seems the people are still stuck with video merit. Kagwanja has come. Even if he's DP, I'll give him my vote because I like him, even when I'm NRM. People are still confused in that. I have not seen people so committed that they will go with a candidate specifically because the party candidate. So party leaders keep trying to do that.
How are these elections portraying the opposition, in your view?
Of course,
given the recent...
the Ugandan opposition is in the worst state, especially currently. They are very disorganized. They are non-committal. When an election comes, alliances arise. I was surprised, actually, my great friend Muntu recently, actually in Arua. FDC has a candidate, and Honorable Muntu is a member of FDC. But he has come up to support another candidate who is not the FDC candidate. The president, the other people of FDC, are they also suffering with their own candidate? In Bujiri, the same. Would expect that there is a possible alliance within the opposition to coalesce their support behind one particular candidate. But themselves, they have the same disease like we have in NRM. Our president comes, he's supporting, our chairman, party chairman actually, he's supporting the NRM official candidate. Two things happen. Some NRM people are not without official candidate of NRM. And also, too, sometimes even the president himself, he'll come to a rally. There's Kagwanjara here, there's Abbas here. Kagwanjara is independent, Abbas is NRM flag bearer. Then he says, now you people, these two are your children, aren't they? Yes, they are. This one, Agaba Abbas, you gave him the flag. This Kagwanjara here was with him in the primaries, but he lost. Please, you take a decision. That's also not good. If we have chosen to go multi-party politics, let everybody die with their candidate, party candidate, be with them. Because you make them popular and you win with them.
Honorable,
so the culture of political party politics needs to be entrenched, and therefore leaders must stand with their party.
Lord Mayor, well, the recent elections, starting with Bujiri, of course, and several others, have brought out the rifts within the parties. And we see FDC, the party that you ally with, in deep trouble. What's your analysis?
Yeah, of course, again, it's a manifestation of the political crisis we are faced. You laugh. You can afford to laugh at my brother Abbas.
It's the co-wife
but I'm
about.
Speaking,
again,
I'm talking reality. I'm talking about what I'm giving a facts. This is a national tragedy. It's a crisis. You have you claim to have embraced a multi-party dispensation. But in actual sense, on the ground, it's not there. You have parties which are registered, but they cannot fully function in a free and fair democracy. They cannot function that way.
And the preferences are shifting as well.
The strategy is not the preferences.
No, the preferences are
What
shifting.
do you mean preferences?
People seem to be ditching the old party system and now going by the new phenomena called the third force.
This is why I want to term it as a strategy, not a preference. Because obviously, actually, it should be a natural response to a volatile situation like this, whether you like it or not. So he has talked about electoral alliances. This time does not call for electoral alliances. I would disagree with you. Electoral alliances,
They work at presidential.
yes, yes. Of course, parties can strike a deal and create a common platform. That is agreeable, and that takes a different shape. If you are to choose candidates for that kind of platform, there are processes you have to go through. Actually, the Political Parties and Organizations Act provides for that arrangement, where two or more parties can create an alliance and work out a mechanism of how to choose candidates, and they register a common symbol. Because if it's in, let me tell you, I gave you time.
Just when you,
I gave you enough time.
Your information for him. In the last elections, I was so intrigued. There were members of opposition who supported the Honorable Mama Babas. There are members of opposition who stayed with Dr. Besigye, and others who stayed with Museveni. It just adds up to what he's saying.
Of course, what I'm telling you, an electoral alliance was not created in accordance with the systems provided for. There was an attempt at creating an electoral alliance during the TDA processes. But would they concretize it in a manner that is envisaged under the law? Obviously, no. Because you needed to have several democracy-seeking forces, those which are not even engaged in elections. The religious leaders, for example, who are supposed to be non-partisan, and they have a role to play in this struggle. You have members of the civil society, the civic organizations. They have also to be part of the same, and many other actors. But when you're talking about electoral alliances, it's largely the political actors. Those political actors can, like political parties or formations, can agree to come up with a common platform, with a common symbol, register the same under the provisions of the Act, and create a common symbol, come up with a mechanism of how to choose candidates who will be flag bearers for that particular platform. So I think they wanted to adopt a tree as a common symbol. That would mean members would abandon symbols of their respective parties. And you know how people can develop cold feet when it comes to abandoning their old symbols. Their party symbols. Like members of Democratic Party who are members of TDA, to be convinced that I abandon the hand hoe in favor of a tree because it is now the common symbol for the electoral alliance, it will be a tall order. The same applies to other political parties. But away from that, and this is what is more fundamental to me, the environment, the situation, the challenges we are contending against right now call for a common front, not an electoral alliance. For me, I have no problem with the multiple candidates standing at, in all these elections. If this CADP, JEM, and others fielding their candidate, like it's happening in Arua right now. Of course, one candidate will emerge out victorious from within the forces of change. I'm confident about that. But what we need right now is to have a common front. An amalgamation of all democracy-seeking forces.
That seems to be failing, apparently.
No, it's not failing. The issue is people are not putting it in context. Rather in context. What they are doing right now, they are focusing on 2021. The moment you put on those lenses, that who should be the flag bearer for the forces of change in 2021? Now you're talking about a candidate. You're not focusing on the struggle. The struggle has got a face. There can't be two or more faces of a particular struggle. It has to be only one face. The face of the struggle. And this is where now I have to make a point, where many of us have been accused of being messagists. Believe me, right now is the face of the struggle. If he is the face of the struggle...
There is an argument that has been replaced by Bobi Wine.
No, that's not true. That's also a misconception and a misnomer. Actually, you can't compare the two. Here, those who are actually fronting Bobi Wine They are not projecting him as the face of the struggle. All I've heard, at least from the debate I have followed in the social media and elsewhere, they want him to come as a presidential candidate in 2021. But for us, some of us, we are saying, no, we can't focus on 2021 candidature when we have a struggle, when we have a battle to champion right now, today. So you have a face of the struggle with Dr. Besigye. No one is saying Besigye should be the candidate for election in 2021. No. We are saying, for us, we are saying, actually, I've not said that Besigye should be a candidate in 2021. All I'm saying currently, do you agree with me that he's the face of the struggle? Yes. If he's the face of the struggle, do we need to dwell with him and replace him with what? With who? As of now.
Lord Mayor, do you agree that the Bobby phenomena is a wave to contend with?
Of course, there is value addition he's bringing on in the struggle. There is value addition. Like many of us, like,
he's kicking
like
you
all
off
the
the
actors.
stage. He's kicking you off the political stage.
This is where you people go wrong. Let me tell you, the ugly face of dictatorship, the ugly face of this dictatorship, which is rearing its head right now, is something that calls for concerted efforts. And those who want to convince you that you can go it single-handedly and confront the monster, bring it down to its knees, capture it, conquer it, form a state, form a government, that would be self-delusion. That would be self-delusion, I want to tell you. And personally, I would caution anyone who would want to take that direction. It is self-destructive. Look at the events now in Arua. Look at what is happening in Arua. All peace-loving Ugandans, all Ugandans of good heart, those who want to see a stable country, would be concerned about the situation and will be taking action right now. Regardless of our political diversities, differences, whether it is the FDC, DP, JMA, whichever formation, or civil society, or religious leaders, all Ugandans now should be focusing on some of these issues and say, look here, this is totally unacceptable. Because we are talking about injustice.
Are you reading
and
the
when
shifting dynamics, Lord Mayor?
They are not shifting dynamics. I'm telling you, the constant is Museveni.
That today, Besigye, who was a magnet, is losing his grip, and Bobby Wine is pulling crowds.
Which ground? I've told you, you're talking about two incomparables. Give me time, just 1 or 2 minutes. You see, Dr. Besigye is the face of the struggle right now. And I've not heard Bobby Wine saying Dr. Besigye should retire and stay in Kasangata and give up the struggle. Dr. Besigye does not head any political formation. He's not a head of the political party FDC, neither is he a head of any alliance right now. All he decided to do with us, to say, let's come up with a platform to champion the struggle, the people's government. And Ugandans are free to embrace it, to support it, to join it. And if you believe in that cause.
Let me come back to you shortly. What does Bobby Wine, the Bobby phenomena, mean to the politics of this country?
I think there are two things. And I thought I would help my brother at that point, although I didn't want to interject with him. There are two things.
And I may not need, it's unsolicited before.
No, yeah, it's unsolicited. It's free. It's free. So, no. It is unsolicited assistance or help, whichever way you look at it, because we're all Ugandans and we wish well for this country. I think the question of the people's loyalty between between political parties and individual merit is the subject we must address fundamentally. Dr. Besigye is facing problems where he's going. He lost in Vujiri, he lost in Shema, he lost whatever he's been losing. It is not Dr. Besigye.
He lost as a candidate or what?
Okay, the FDC.
But he's not a president of FDC.
Okay, his candidates lost.
Who's the candidate?
His candidates he wants to support lost.
Those are FDC candidates.
Of course, okay. So if NRM loses, 7 candidates lost. But when they win, it's also different. But then let me bring it. the Dr. Besigye may also read and say, hey, in Bujiri, I think Asuman is doing better. But how will I be seen to abandon the FDC and I go with another candidate who is not FDC? Especially when the political parties have failed to agree among themselves who wins. So he religiously goes with the FDC candidate, which others are not doing. They are at liberty. Bobby Wine is at liberty. He's not in any political party. If he had been a DP, for example, and DP as a candidate in Arua, I would be very happy and waiting to see him go and stick to the DP candidate. But because he's independent, he's a bit free and able to engage. Although I've not seen him support NRM leading candidates. He's been supporting opposition leading candidates. And so be it. The wave is there, it's on. But how permanent is it? How regular can it be?
Is it likely to shake the center?
No, definitely.
Can it shake the center?
No. It doesn't. It cannot shake the center. But I can tell you it's advantageous for the NRM. Why? You can see that the house of the opposition is in total disarray. Total. And recently they made it even worse. People have been blaming Museveni. He chooses hopeless ministers. He does this, he makes these choices. And the opposition, and those ones outside the NRM were saying, hey, maybe. Then they also analyze those choices he has made and they're like, hey, how could even so and so be? But now you know what has happened in FDC. The moment they change their leadership in parliament, people have now come up in arms. There is a lot of anger. There's a lot of revenge. People want revenge. There's a lot of ego. Everything. We wish them well, of course, as one of the political parties, progressive in this country, to settle down and help the people better. But that's not for us.
Okay.
It's not for us to clean for them their house.
President Museveni, in the aftermath of the 2016 elections, said there will be no opposition come 2021. Do you see it happening?
Why wouldn't you say that if you were in Museveni's shoes? That's politics. In politics, those you are engaging with, you do everything possible to reduce their power, to curtail, to tame them. Although the Honorable Kwago brings it in a very different way, that the military regime wants to get rid of everything. You know, if you do it politically, in the 1960s,
don't you think Bobby Wine is igniting the power of the opposition?
So be it. If I told he's doing, my point is, as an analyst, I don't think that is sustainable. Political parties rely on structures. You must be well founded. You don't keep on the top. This is milk we are taking. On top there's cream. You see the cream, you like it. But if you go drink down and you find something different, it will be very, very difficult. I think political parties need to concentrate on building structures. That's why NRM is beating others. At the national level, because we are all engaged, we may not get a good percentage for the president. But when you come down, members of parliament, LC5s and others, there are many. Because the structures are there and they are strong. And even if you use only the structure, people in the structures to mobilize, it's bigger.
Well, Lord Mayor, the leader opposition party, FDC, is in disarray. Your House Democratic Party has a share of problems.
Lord Mayor is not DP.
He is DP.
Hey, I didn't know. This is news.
I'm surprised you are the one who has the role for the register.
No, I didn't know.
But
I know you are independent.
Honorable Kyagulanyi is gaining traction. What does this mean?
But what is gaining traction? I think explain it, Mr. Kagwanja, also.
You see, you've talked about institutions and individuals. I think you need to tread carefully on those issues when you are analyzing institutions vis-a-vis individuals. They play different roles altogether. Of course, there is a convergence of interests, but you can't wish away institutions. That's why many of us struggled for political parties to be in place. But by their nature, political parties as associations, as an amalgamation or congregation of interests, they are focusing on elections and democracy, generally in a civic way, in a free and fair environment. Have explained this. That's what they focus on. And we need them in our society to nurture our democracy. But when it comes to revolutionary politics, parties cannot be at the forefront. This is simple logic, and it's backed up by history, by facts. It's also political science anyway. That when you are talking about revolutionary politics, liberation struggles, the parties cannot be at the forefront. That's the very reason when Museveni went to the bush in the early 80s, it is not UPM which had participated in the 1980 elections. It was a totally different formation, NRA. Right now, we have Defiance. We have these other formations. Those ones are and all these individuals in all these political parties and formations will one way or the other have to come under one umbrella organization, not a political party per se, but a coalition of sorts, a coalition of the willing, a front of sorts to deal with the situation we are faced with right now. So forget about this issue, so and so is having an edge over the other. Over what? Over what? Because ultimately...
Do you acknowledge Bobby's strength?
I think you are too much obsessed with that. I'm sorry to say this. Let me tell you, with the strength of individuals manifests itself in what what strategies you have to deal with the situation at hand. Let me ask you. Let me ask you. The problem right now is militarism. That you cannot have a free and fair election. I've explained this. And even if you went into an election and you still have the Museveni dictatorship in place, you are contending against. You are contending against. What new strategies are you coming up with to fight that?
I'm afraid
you see, that is the issue.
Our time is fast spent, but could this tide called Bobby swallow up the opposition or build it?
It is the same issue, Simon, which I've mentioned. you see, the institutions are very strong and they can't be wished away. But when it comes to the struggle, there is a face of the struggle right now. Tell me, what is it that Besigye has not done to champion the struggle, which is a new phenomenon being brought by somebody else? Because Museveni uses outright brutality to subdue the people, outright brutality to rig elections, state machinery, and so on and so forth. Until I hear the strategies from the Johnny come lately right now to say, look here. No, maybe that's not a proper term. If the new forces that are coming on board, because even any struggle, by the way, recruitment is good. Recruitment is good. For me, I'm happy when many people join the struggle, but not to contest or contend with those who are already there. Because I'm
sorry, Tamale Meron is just around the corner.
It serves nobody's interest.
We have to bring this to the end.
No, but Simon, just 1 minute.
I'm afraid our time is fast
1
spent.
second. Just to
We're
make
already
his
10
point.
minutes into Tamale's
Okay, just
time.
to make his point. We have many traditional schools.
Yes.
They are not always the top, always all the time. But they still get students. Why? They are traditional and they have a culture and they are known. And they always get them.
Well, thank you very much.
Lord
Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago, thank you for joining me. Thank you, Honorable Bansagawa, for sharing with us your insights on the current political discourse. Tamale Mirundi coming up next with Honorable Sir Simon Muyanga Lutaya. Good morning.